Good morning, Wareham. It is Wednesday, January 18th. I'm sorry we're having some technical difficulties there. We have a great show here for you today. The news headlines, weather report, and today in history. Richard Lennox, the president and CEO at Disaster Specialist, Trauma Scene and Biorecovery Services, is here. During the coffee segment, we'll hear from Richard about the services they provide. But first, I would like to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the Good Morning Wareham set. So stay tuned, because the weather, the traffic, and the news headlines are next. It is 9 a.m. There was white powder on your windshield this morning, little snowflakes from overnight. We should expect mostly cloudy skies today. Highs at 41 degrees, winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Few clouds overnight, temperatures at 23 degrees. It is 26 degrees outside. The National Weather Service has issued a winter storm watch for Saturday afternoon through Sunday evening for most of Massachusetts. However, here at South Coast, we are going to miss the brunt of the season's first storm. The rest of the state is in line for 6 to 24 inches of snow and ice. The highest totals are expected across northern countries. The ice is expected to cause power failures and tree damage. Travel could be nearly impossible at times. Saturday temperatures, highs at 29 and lows at 25. Expect gust winds at night at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Sunday highs at 40. Temperatures will drop severely at night at 4 degrees with gust winds at 20 to 30 miles per hour. For traffic, well, there's no snow out there, so you should be good to drive. Route 3 and 495 is set for you to be there. And now for news. There were few news stories over the week, and here are the news headlines. Wareham Week is bustling with these news headlines, starting with crime news in Wareham. 2 suspects in custody following violent home invasion in Wareham. On updated report yesterday, Wareham police reported that 3 suspects believed to have been involved in a violent home invasion at Chota Drive were arrested. According to reports, a man called Wareham police on Tuesday, January 15th, reporting that 3 people had broken into his home and began beating him and another victim with a baseball bat. A reminder that not all dog pets are friendly. Wareham Selectmen revised dangerous dog ruling. A dog deemed dangerous by selectmen on January 31st will now be labeled as at risk following an unanimous vote on Tuesday night. The dog, a female Australian Shepherd named Daisy, was accused of attacking and antagonizing several other dogs and people on both Great Neck Road and Lindy's Island Road, unprovoked this past year. Animal Control Officer Shirley Govatadil said she had received many complaints regarding Daisy in July, including an incident in which Daisy had reportedly attacked another dog while loose. And getting ready for the town elections, selectmen approved new polling locations in Wareham. With the demolition of Minot Forest Elementary School, Wareham Board of Selectmen has approved 2 new polling locations for voters in precincts 3 and 6 on Tuesday night. Voters in precinct 3 will now vote at Hammond School in Onset, located at 13 Highland Ave. Voters in precinct 6 will vote at East Wareham Fire Station, located at 281 Glen Cherry Road. Wicked Local was bustling with these headlines over the week. Criminals run free from authorities while authorities drown in open arrest warrants in Massachusetts. Millions of Americans are wanted on criminal arrest warrants, including hundreds of thousands of fugitives accused of murder, rape, robbery, or assault, while victims wait for justice. In Massachusetts, there are more than 390,000 open warrants. Many of the cases stay open for years, even decades, and often are forgotten as law enforcers and judges struggle to keep up with thousands of new warrants filled in courthouses across the nation each day. And the Wareham Community Events Committee is accepting new grants applications. Applications are now being accepted by the Wareham Community Events Committee for events in Wareham and Onset for the spring, summer, fall, and the winter 2019 season, and will continue to be accepted as long as funds are available. The CEC events and assistance guides with information about the application process and how to submit your application electronically are available on the Wareham Town website, Community Events Committee, or in the Board of Selectmen's office at the Town Hall. Contact Linda Gay at 508-295-9039 if you have any questions. That is all I have for the news headlines, and now to the story of the day. We'll be right back after this brief break. Story of the day, we are going to inhale and exhale. One big breath in, hold it, and then exhale. I took a trip to go and see Kendra Bond, an inspirationist, to learn tips on learning how to be grounded. Here is Kendra Bond explaining the meaning and the art of healing. Take a look. Okay, that's what we have. We're talking about healing and being connected, right? About your
energies and how to listen to energies and what those energies mean depending on where you are or how comfortable you are with certain things. So let's talk more about healing.
Okay.
What is healing?
Healing is bringing the body back into a state of balance, and the mind and the spirit and the psychological systems, because you are not just your body. So if you are having a spiritual challenge or an emotional challenge or a mental challenge, they also have to be addressed as well as the physical. And so there are many ways of learning energetically what that is, through muscle testing, kinesiology, through dowsing. There's many different tools of dowsing, and now we're actually using our body as a dowsing tool to find out where the imbalances are.
But yet, in order to receive healing, the healing that you're talking about, you have to be grounded. To some point,
you have to be accepting.
You have to be
because we all have destiny. And your pain may be a part of your destiny. My pain, I come from a place of abuse, you know, from an ex-marriage. But that was, I would not be here. I would not have lost my power, regained my power. I would go back and do it 100 times more for what I received and what I learned and the path it put me on, because it kept me on my destiny.
So you help people journey within themselves.
Yes.
To get to unlock each and every door. To find what?
Basically, when you go into a state, a trance, a very deep, relaxed state, then you can really notice, oh, I have this wall in my heart. Oh, you know. And then once you recognize that, once you see it and really feel how it's affecting you, when you come out of the experience, you know how much weight that's having on you. So now, there are a lot of ways of addressing that. There are energy medicines, there is EFT, there's going back in and really addressing, doing a regression back to the time when that wall was created and seeing what was the experience, and do you really need it now? Because chances are you don't. It's an illusion. You put it up for protection on something maybe 20 years ago that isn't even in your life anymore. So it's all about balance. Holistic healing is really about bringing all of you into balance.
How do you become aware of this daily in your routine? When you wake up, when you go to work, when you're home with your family, your loved ones, how do you become aware of this? How do you interact with these energies and learning and grounding yourself, balancing yourself constantly?
So when I work with people, the first thing I tell them is to learn about heart math. Heart math was created by a neurocardiologist, and it's about the state that you're in. And you're either in a state of low coherence, high coherence, or neutral. And what happens is when outside stimulus activates a memory, you either go in one of these states, and there's a lot of them, okay, from low to high, all right? Well, what happens when you drop down into a low state, and it depends on how low you go, what you're reacting to, what kind of trauma. What he has found is that if you put your hand back on your heart, or you breathe through your heart, you vision it, and you think of something that you really love, within 30 seconds, you'll go right back up into high coherence. So when I work with people, the first thing that I suggest is that they learn heart math. And they go on the webpage and they learn about it so their ego understands what's happening here. So when you get angry, frustrated, you know, don't feel right about something, you stop and you say, okay, I'm in low coherence, and you just get yourself into high. Once you feel comfortable with that, you stop and you say, what exactly, if I was to put it into one sentence, was the reason that I just went into low coherence? Did someone not listen to me? Okay, so, or whatever it was. And usually you will find that there's a same thing happening. It's I'm not being acknowledged, I'm not being recognized, I'm not being heard, if that's the issue, okay? So now you know that's the psychological blockage that drops you down into low coherence. And now there are other techniques that are very easy and simple that you can change those. There are a lot of ways, just music, you know yourself, you put boogie beat music on and you're like, you know, you put something real and you're like, use it. Use those are tools. If you're Don't be listening to boogie beat music. You know, drink chamomile tea. Do the things that give you the control to control the physical, emotional, spiritual, and your mental state.
You are the creator of a Facebook page called Divine Time. Tell me about that. You share a lot of insight about being grounded, about what it means to heal, what it means to have a spiritual guide.
Yeah, and I've gained a little bit of a following there because I think people every day need to be reminded that they're not their job, they're not their paycheck, they're not late for work, that they're a spiritual being. And if they take the time to stop and think about that, they can be in a better space that day.
And that's very interesting because you will share something about yourself, something personal, and at the end of the day you'll bring it to some conclusion of this is what
Why.
This means. This is the why. You give them the why, and in a sense where you are at peace with the why, that it is out of my control. This is part of my destiny. Therefore, I am to just accept it, embrace it.
Because I got the strength, knowledge, and ability from the experience, there's nothing negative about it anymore. It's only when we don't get what it was given to us for that we feel unfulfilled and we feel like, why? So for me, I immediately go in and I journey and I look and I see, why do I need this?
To me, everything that you said, I feel like the purpose of it is to control your emotions.
No, you don't want to control them.
You do not want to control your emotions?
No, you want to change them. You want to transform them.
So you're saying there is control from losing control?
You don't lose control. You have more control because your intuition has more information for you that is going to make it a sacred experience than just an egoic one. You're going to fulfill your destiny along with getting what you need.
So for those who are listening to us, Kendra, and they're saying, okay, once again, back to the New Year's resolution, the hopes and dreams that the New Year brings, and people have their list. They want to do the check marks on their list. How do you tie to them? How do they tie into this
I
conversation?
intend that my new year follow my destiny. That's my resolution. I look back not at what was wrong from last year, because everything that was wrong from last year was the physical manifestation of the spiritual experience I needed to have to expand and become more compassionate and conscious. The ego wants to say, oh, there was all kinds of bad crap back there. This year we got to get rid of that. Okay, so what's just happened? Energetically, you are magnetizing what you need to learn, and your ego is saying, no, we don't want to learn that. No, we don't want to learn that. No, we don't want to learn that. And you are drawing the same thing to you again and again and again and again. Change that vibration, and you will attract something different, your new lesson. And there's one thing energetically I want to leave you with. Sacrifice, the energy of sacrifice has no reward. So when you're giving and giving and giving and you are not allowing anyone to give back because it feels so good, you are not allowing them to feel good. And then they're not going to feel good and they're not going to appreciate everything you're doing. And when they walk away, you're going to stand there and go, I did everything for them and they just, how did... Because sacrificing yourself has no reward. You are telling the universal forces to not bring you anything. You want to give and you don't want to get. And that depletes us and it makes us feel unworthy. And we just need to understand how that works so we can change it in our lives.
Wonderful video, isn't it? I learned so much from Kendra. So hello and thank you for being with us this morning. We are broadcasting live from our WCTV studio. This is the Good Morning Wareham show. Good Morning Wareham show. Your source for local news, more information, and weather report. Excuse me, Bob, the telephone, please. So coming next is the history segment. Let's take a look at where we were today in history. Oh, we have a lot of fun here at the studio. Today in history, I have some music, historical facts for you today. Let's start with this one. Today, the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 is Post Malone's Sunflower. If we look back to the year 1964, we see that the Beatles making their first appearance on the U.S. Billboard charts. Their single, I Want to Hold Your Hand, reaches number 45 on the charts, kickstarting the British invasion of the 60s, to some say. The song would later reach number 1 on the charts on February 1st of the same year. According to the Billboard charts, the Beatles have had 20 #1 hits and 71 total songs that have reached the charts before. The two Beatles still alive, still with us today, is Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, are still very active to this day and still create music. This day in history, in 1980, Pink Floyd released their classic album, The Wall, featuring their classic song, Another Brick in the Wall. Which its iconic music video, The Wall, was the best-selling album of 1980. In its lifetime, the album has sold over 30 million copies. Other than The Wall, Pink Floyd has had many iconic albums like The Dark Side of the Moon and I Wish You Were Here. Today in birthdays, we have two people celebrating their birthdays, a famous author and a historical figure celebrating their anniversaries of life. We're going to start with A.A. Milne, the creator of Winnie the Pooh, was born in Hampstead, New England, on this day in 1882. The famous yellow bear, along with other animals of their 100-acre wood, have been around since their first volume of stories in 1926. The most recent film to portray these legendary characters, Christopher Robin, was released in 2018, grossing $100 million in the U.S., showing how popular Winnie the Pooh is to this day. A.A. Milne shares his birthday with a U.S. politician, Daniel Webster. Born in New Hampshire in 1782, Daniel Webster was a lawyer who would later be elected as Senator of Massachusetts. After his time as a senator, he became the Secretary of State for the United States in the mid-1800s. Webster is remembered as a nationalist who was a big advocate for business during his time as an elected official. And happy birthday to all of you celebrating your big day today. Also, this Monday is Martin Luther King Day, a federal holiday held on the third Monday of January. It celebrates the life and achievements of Martin Luther King Jr., an influential American civil rights leader. King's message of peace and equality has inspired many and has helped transform and heal our nation. In celebration of King's Day, we are going to highlight those going out of their way to fight for others, to fight for peace. Just a Penny Please is a nonprofit raising money to build animal-friendly shelters for children fleeing sexual and domestic violence. Michael Capolozzi is a founder of the nonprofit. Walked 3,000 miles from California to Boston collecting just a penny at a time for the cause. I met up with Michael at Framingham State University to learn more about Just a Penny Please. Here, take a look.
Hello, my name's Cappy, with Just a Penny Please. In the last few seconds, one woman was brutally beaten and one child was sexually abused. Some people sit around and think that's okay. That's 20 a minute, 10 million per year. I'm walking from California to Boston, 3,000 miles, 5 million steps, raising $10 million to build centers for abused women and children. Won't you help me? It's just a penny. Just one penny, please. Just a penny, please.org. Thank you and blessings.
Safe house was. You know what a safe house is? There's a bunch of different kinds of safe houses. We'll talk about that in a second. And I said, what are we going to do?
That's when I say, okay, it's raining out, you know what, you got 4 more miles, just do the 4 more miles. You know.
Michael, 1979, you made a promise, and as you described this, you said you made a promise to your maker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that promise that you made almost 4 decades ago is the genesis to your current mission.
Yes.
Tell us what the promise was.
Well, a little backstory. I was volunteering at a safe house. And I was painting and drinking beer and painting and drinking beer, as the story goes. And the police officers brought a little girl in that had been sexually abused. And I never saw any abuse in my entire life. I didn't understand it, had no basis of it. This little girl was 2 years old. My daughter was 2 years old at the time. And I was physically and emotionally changed forever. I didn't understand that abuse. I didn't know people hurt people like that. It's just I had no place to put that. So the deal I cut with my maker, as I like to say, is that if he took care of my kid, I'd take care of my kid. Do his job, I'll do my job.
Now, you're not only building or raising money for safe houses, you're doing something unique, something that is not very common when it comes to safe houses.
Pet-friendly safe houses. The unique factor is pet-friendly. Most shelters in America, and I just learned this myself over the past couple years, do not accept pets. Now, I understand the whys, but I didn't know it even existed. You can bring them into hospitals, hotels, and college campus, but you can't bring them into a shelter. 40% of children in abusive environments stay or are kept in abusive environments because there's no place for the pet to go.
Now, maybe, I want you to think of a kid in your life. Could be a niece, could be a nephew, maybe it's your kid, I don't know. Maybe it's you. And when that sun starts to go down, that little kid's heart races and races and races. Because they don't know what's going to happen. Is my mother going to take a beating tonight? Is somebody going to throw a plate across the room? Is that madman going to enter my room tonight? But if this little guy's right there, think about it. If this little guy's right there, that heartbeat has a little calming effect. Those are the kids I'm walking through.
You're only asking for a penny. The cause is greater, bigger than all of us. It will take, who knows, when our society is going to change. But you're only asking for a penny and it's working. Tell me about your strategy. Why just
No
a penny?
donation is too small. Through the power of one. What I mean by that is one person can make a difference. It takes one domino to set off thousands of them. Somebody recently said to me, what if you fail? And I said, what do you mean? If I don't make Fenway Park, I don't make it all the way to the end of the destination. I said, if I save one child in this whole process,
You've done
the
your
family
job.
tree.
Yes. You hear this often. In order to be effective in your job, especially in a cause, you got to walk the walk. You know, you got to understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to change.
reading about your bio, you have never gone through
No.
any violence in your life.
Never.
Okay.
My dad was a Marine. I said that was abuse enough. I'm kidding. But no.
Right. Now, being blessed, being able to escape all of that, being able to be shielded from all that trauma, how do you connect to this cause? How do you keep going? Michael, you are walking. You have walked 3,000 miles, okay, from California to Fenway Park in Boston. Across America, you have walked. What drove you? What made you say, Michael, you got to get up and one foot after the other?
Every time I'd have a bad day, and I never had a whole bad day, but a bad moment where I'm thinking, you know what, I just want to go home and hang out with my dogs and my lady friend and my kids. And I'm thinking, the time it took you to bitch and complain, some kid was sexually abused in this country. Every 9 seconds, Queen, some kid is reportedly abused.
I have, you talking about statistics, and I have some statistics here, and they are ugly. Just a few. Nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are white eyewitnesses to this violence.
Yeah.
We are talking about an epidemic.
Pandemic.
Okay. And another thing is, normally when people support causes that they have some attachment to, they have to be moved, right? And you're asking yourself, how can statistics such as this cannot move you? Either to speak out, or either to fundraise, or either to be a good member of your society. How can these statistics not move you? But yet, we're sitting here today, Michael, because not enough people are moved by these statistics. Where do you think the problem is?
I think, in fact, my partner, Jill, she said to me when I first started doing this, take the word women out of your dialogue. And I said, why? I'm walking for abused women and children. She said, America does not care about abused women, or that have fixed it. It's not fixed. Society doesn't care. It's a dark, dark topic. But you bring children and pets into it, there's some hope and some salvation with women with children and pets. People like children and pets. Even people that don't like pets will pet the dog. They'll hide the kid. The women, they don't care about it, or they'd have fixed this problem. So I don't know if that answers your question on it.
But did you change? Do you think it worked when you changed your language or the way you see it?
Donations went up.
By taking the word women.
I watched donations go up. I watched donations, yep. Can I fix the whole world? Nope, I can't. And I'm okay with that. I'm not, I wouldn't. There is no fixing this. There's helping. We're like a little kid with his finger in the dike. The flood's happening. We're just trying to slow it down. I'm held up under some trees here in very, very eastern Ohio. In the next 2.5 hours or so, I will be in Pennsylvania. That is unbelievable. Pennsylvania. I haven't done the mileage in a few days, but I think it's about 2,700 miles done.
Hey, good morning, Facebook friends and family. It's been a while since I put one of these up. We are just shy of Utica, New York. At the end of today, we'll be 263 miles from downtown Boston, Fenway Park.
Tell me about your journey, your 3,000-mile journey.
It was nothing like I expected and more than I could have hoped for. I told people jokingly I was ready for the knowns. The unknowns would present themselves. I wasn't prepared for the stories that people would share with me. I wasn't prepared for Lisa saying, I want to hear my story. I didn't think of any of that stuff. And that's what made this thing real. And that's when I'd say, okay, it's raining out, you know what, you got 4 more miles, just do the 4 more miles, you know.
Do you feel the weight of what you're doing,
No.
Michael?
No, I'm empowered. I'm lifted up by it. I did stand-up comedy for 15 years. The weight in a bad show is when you don't get the crowd to laugh. I would get lifted up by people laughing. I'm lifted up by people's stories now.
You've already done the walk. You've raised how much have you raised?
Just under $42,000.
Okay, was this enough for the?
No.
Okay.
The goal's $250,000. We hooked up recently. When I say we, I mean the Verde Valley Sanctuary and Just a Penny, Please. And Serena Williams has a project going with Allstate Insurance. It's called the Purple Purse Project. If you're not familiar with it, look into it. It's pretty neat. Because most women, I shouldn't qualify that, many women are kept in the environment because of financial control. So they agreed to, and I'll say match, I don't know how much they matched, but we placed, I think, $30,000 or $40,000 last week that Allstate's now going to step up and add to that. So that was really neat. So no, we're a long way from it. What I'm going to do from here is going to go home, regroup, hug my family and my dogs, and then start a movement, if you will, called Walks Around America. Meaning I'll come to your hometown. And your hometown probably has a shelter. I've got the list, international, national list of it. And associate with your shelter and do just walks. So you want to walk with just a penny? It costs you how much money to walk with just a penny?
A penny.
Just a penny. Just make a penny donation and bring 100 people. We don't care. Just give us all a penny. Now, everybody's going to give us $1, $2, $3. But half of those funds we raise will stay in your hometown with your domestic shelter. Half comes with our domestic shelter. If I can give you some type of reason of ownership of the project and just, you know, we walk around Medway, we walk around Framingham University, just get the movement going. We can get this thing. It's all grassroots.
Tell me about this shelter, where it's going, whom it serves.
It's going to go in Cottonwood, Arizona, because I associate with a group called Verde Valley Sanctuary, who's 25 years old in the domestic shelter business. And they don't have a pet-friendly shelter.
Did they tell you what it takes to have pets there as well?
They've already been looking into that. They've got the architectural design done. They've got the vets on staff, ready to come on staff, the pet food companies that are coming around. They've got all that stuff going into place right now.
Well, Michael, I cannot thank you enough for opening our eyes. Your dedication is inspiring, and I know it's going to inspire a lot of people.
Thank you.
As you say, just a penny.
Just a penny. No
one step at a time. Yeah, no,
just a penny, please.
And you have proved it, Michael.
.org.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be well. God bless.
I invite you to tell people about your experiences. Because if we put water on this, things grow. And we get it out of the back rooms and the barns and the bedrooms, we can fix this. We can't cure it, but we can fix it. Be an advocate. If you see something wrong, tell somebody. If you see a little kid being abused, tell somebody. Parents do not own children. It's a short-term lease.
That was Just a Penny, Please. That is all I have for today in History segment. To learn more about cool historical facts, please go online under history.com. Stay with us, do not go anywhere, because the coffee segment is next. But first, let's take a look at our events calendar. For joining us. This is Good Morning Wareham. We're broadcasting live from our WCTV studio at 505 Main Street, Wareham. I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a second. I am joined by Richard Lennox. He's from the Disaster Specialist. He is the CEO and founder of Disaster Specialist. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, I really had, as I told you before, Richard, I am not a homeowner. Knock on wood, nothing bad has happened to me or my family that we would seek such services. And I have invited you here so we could learn about what you do.
Okay.
Okay. So you make disasters disappear. That's what it says.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now, could you tell us about what you do? What does it mean by making disasters disappear?
Okay. All our end user clients really want from us is their home put back together. Okay. They want their lives back the way they were this morning before whatever occurred. If you're going to have a new kitchen put on your home or a new deck or a basement room, you've kind of got a build-up process to that. You're looking forward to getting something that you didn't have before. And my clients went to work in the morning and their home was intact. And they came home to find that the water heater burst or the washing machine hose let go or they had a fire. And their world instantly goes from, their norm to totally being upside down. They go right to the bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy, meaning, how are my kids going to be, how are they going to do their homework today? How are they going to be able to get on the school bus tomorrow? How am I going to feed my family? If their home is substantially damaged, what do we do with the pets? Again, how do my kids get on the bus tomorrow for school, and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of immediate concerns that, come to mind when you have this kind of occurrence, which is always sudden, to handle all those things. So my company's job is to get you through the process of that initial response through to have your home completely repaired as quickly as possible and as hassle-free as possible, and just get you taken care of and get your life back to normal.
Wonderful. And you mentioned about a home, but you offer a range of services in which we're gonna get to them later on in the show. But I'm curious, how did you get into this line of work?
Well, when I was in high school, I went to work for a company that was a national company, and they did just the mitigation work, just the emergency response work. So from the time I was in high school to now, 40 years, I've been in the same industry. But I started by extracting water and cleaning up soot and boarding up houses and things like that were my first, one of my first jobs while I was still in high school, and I've been in the industry ever since.
So you liked it so much that you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm doing it, I know about it, let me stay.
Well, and I'm not sure it makes me a smart man that I'm still here 40 years later, but you know, it's been great. I think it's good for the type of person who doesn't like to go and do the same thing every day at the same place. My company handles 800 to 1,000 jobs a year, from as far away as Newport, Rhode Island, to Provincetown, to Nantucket Island, Martha's Vineyard, as far north as Marshfield, that area there. So it's quite a bit of geographical area that we cover. And it just runs the gamut on the type of places that we work. It could be the Fall River Housing Authority, or it could be a multi-million-dollar home on the ocean. So it runs the gamut on the types of places and the types of people that we work with, and certainly the places that we work.
Wonderful. So you cover a range of services from flooding, fire and smoke, natural disasters, mold, crime and trauma. Could you, I mean, from those services that I've listed, anything else, or in which of these services that you are a specialist in?
Okay. Well, I mean, I would say probably the biggest segment of our business is water damage related. Broken pipes due to freezing, and broken pipes, water issues due to, water heater malfunctions, broken pipes, a lot of plastics on appliances nowadays. So dishwashers and ice maker lines for refrigerators and different things. So plastics fail, seems like more than they used to in the past, when things were made a little more sturdy. So thankfully that keeps us in business. One of the other interesting things that we do that you just mentioned is hoarding. We do a fair amount of hoarding projects during the course of the year, or you might want to call them poor housekeeping, but some people really have a real crisis, and hoarding can be anything. Can be plastic jugs, it can be newspapers, it can be animals. We go to houses sometimes where there is 15 or 20 dogs, and the house literally gets destroyed and somebody's living in it. Most of these problems arise or become known about through there's some kind of medical incident where somebody's taken from the home, or there's a situation where somebody's in the hospital and they need to be released, and there's no way for the medical providers to provide the in-home services that person needs in that kind of environment. So we run into those. Seems like more over the 33 years I've been in business. I don't think the first 15 years I did very many hoarding jobs at all, but they're increasing in frequency, over the years now.
Wow, that's very interesting.
I read something yesterday or just recently that they suspect on Cape Cod there's 8,000 different hoarding situations literally ongoing at this particular time. It was just a ratio of, a percentage of the population kind of thing.
Wow. So, when I was doing my weather report this morning, and we talked about there was a storm coming over the weekend, but we're not going to be on the front seats of that storm. But how does weather affect your business? How does snow, rain, how does it affect your business?
Weather is everything to my business. Cold weather creates frozen pipes, and that's one of our busiest seasons of all. Certainly, I heard on the weather recently too that we might have a little bit of wind with a high tide and with the cold and so on and so forth. That can create work. The times where we're really getting, if you can get a situation, and I hate the way this sounds, but if you have a real bad winter storm with a lot of winds and trees take out power lines and houses lose their electricity, houses then subsequently freeze, and then subsequently have water damages.
Yes,
So
and it happened last winter.
It happened a lot last winter.
Yes, it happened a lot, especially our area here in Wareham. We had a lot of neighborhoods with uprooted trees, crushed roofs. So a lot of that happened, yeah.
And our population is such that we have so many vacations homes that are unattended basically, and so what is a problem in a full-time owner-occupied home is certainly different from a house that somebody's only checking on periodically, and something can occur there. You can have your electricity go off and then go back on, but the furnace not go back on because it had that interruption. And so when everybody thinks everything's fine because the electricity's back on, doesn't necessarily mean everything's fine in every property. and stuff happens. So weather is the biggest factor to my business that there is.
And you handle biohazard material. Would you define what it means by biohazard?
Yes, I can. So crime and trauma is a small segment of the business that we do, and it basically is the cleanup of biohazards, blood, body fluids, and things of that sort. So it's basically going in and cleaning up after suicides, murders, some kind of violent altercation, if you will, unattended deaths. Very sad kind of stuff, but somebody has to go in and take care of that. It's a horrendous mess.
And we here in Wareham, we have a high population of elders, and whether they live alone or they have somebody there, I could see where your services could come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So to what extent does EPA and OSHA rules you have to abide by?
Okay. The EPA has some guidelines for mold remediation. So they're guidelines, they're not laws. And basically, by certain increments of area, meaning that if there's 5 square feet of mold visible, there's a certain set of rules, or 10 square feet or 50 square feet. There's different sets of protocols or rules that go with the amount of mold that you have. We get a lot of phone calls from people who have relatively minor mold problems. A lot of them have to do with they're going to sell their house and a home inspector finds mold in the attic. Or they have mold on their bathroom ceiling and those kinds of things. And major mold remediation projects to us have literally houses where there's been a broken hot water pipe that put steam into the house for a significant period of time, and the entire house is literally covered in mold. And it's an amazing thing to see, because sometimes molds can be very colorful. They can be pink and green, and they can grow mushrooms and so on. And all you need to grow mold is a moisture source and a food source. And mold will grow, and it's into real estate, so it just proliferates and grows and grows and grows. And you go into a substantial mold situation, and you will see these colonies of mold that are different colors, and they're just growing and consuming the paper that's on the drywall. Or you can grow mold on a toilet or a piece of porcelain like that, but it's not really growing on the porcelain. It's growing on the dust that's on the porcelain. That's what it's consuming for a food. And so it's an amazing thing to watch some of these properties, but the bulk of them are much more mundane. It's there's mold on a roof sheathing in the attic and that sort of thing, and it's holding up somebody's ability to sell a house. And this is the one thing that I have to say about mold, and I tell people this all the time in my regular day-to-day work, is that we can come in and remove that mold, but if you do not remove the source of the moisture, the mold will be back. So I can go in and clean your attic and make it look nice, and you can, sell your property and all that. But if the situation that's creating the excess moisture is not rectified, the dust is going to recollect, and the mold and the moisture is going to, be reintroduced, and the mold's going to just start to grow again. Mold exists in our natural air. Mold exists in the air outside. Mold exists in this room right here. It's just the difference in between it being at a dangerous level. And I'm reluctant to use that word dangerous. I wish it was a different word. A problematic level versus just what is normal everyday mold.
And when does it get to be a problematic level? I mean, let's say in this building, unless we are selling it, somebody found mold. When should somebody be concerned? When should somebody call you saying, I have mold?
Well, if you're seeing visible mold, chances are you have an issue that probably should be addressed, okay? Because that problem isn't going to go away, and it's only going to get larger. So the first part of that is, like I said earlier, is discovering where's the moisture being introduced, and you take care of that first, and then you can take care of the mold remediation, and you're good to go as far as mold's concerned. But there's classes of people that are more mold is more problematic than others. If you're allergic to molds, you're going to have more of an allergic reaction, obviously. Elderly people with immune deficiency issues, people with breathing issues and that sort of stuff are going to be more susceptible to mold problems than a healthy person.
And the work that you do is a specialist kind of work, right?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of training and equipment and such that goes into this, and we use, a lot of times we'll use an industrial hygienist to come in and test the air quality, get some numbers on things, so that way we know whether we've done our job properly. So there's, pre-testing and post-testing to make sure that the house is habitable and ready to be used.
How do you guys cope with what you see, what you handle every day? Never mind the flooding. You're talking about crime scene work.
Well, thankfully, there's not a tremendous amount of crime scene work where we're doing it every single day. But that is devastating to deal with. Same thing with the hoarding to a certain extent. That is somewhat disheartening when you go into a house and there's trash 2 and 3 feet deep, and somebody's been living in it, literally existing in a home where the kitchen is unusable, the bathrooms are unusable. We go to homes where people have filled up the house and are living in their car because there's no room in their house anymore. Or I go to homes where there's they're sleeping in a bed where the only area available on the bed that's not piled up with stuff is exactly where they lay. So it is a terrible problem for some people. But for the men on the crime scene part, it is just a difficult thing, and I think that my men, and that's all I can speak of, is my men react, they joke about it and they laugh about it, but I think that's their coping mechanism.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. I have so many questions here for you, but unfortunately we're running out of time. But thank you for the information that you have shared.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
To our viewers, this was Good Morning Wareham Show. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you missed our episode, it will re-air at 6 this evening. We do not have a show Monday because of Martin Luther King Day. To that, I wish you all a wonderful day, and I'll see you back on Wednesday. Bye.